Is there anything worse than seeing an accuracy rating of 95% and having your unit still miss? So, another video game that I played recently. XCOM, Enemy Unknown. So this was the, I was going to say modern. It's on the PS3 because I'm old and out of date. Update of the classic XCOM. And the classic XCOM I have a weird sort of nostalgia for. I might as well explain it because this is not going to be any kind of a comprehensive review by someone who knows what the heck they're talking about. So I might as well share this anecdote. My best friend, when I was growing up, I had consoles growing up. So I had a Nintendo, then a Super Nintendo, and 64, etc. He had computer games. So that's something that I would get to mess around with every now and then when I was over at his house. And one of the things he had like this. He had a disc that was like a whole bunch of demos for games. And one of the ones he had was a demo for the original XCOM. Now, XCOM, if you don't know, is a turn-based strategy game where you are in charge of a organization trying to combat an alien invasion. So there's actually a lot of moving parts to it. You need to build up your base, train up your units, you need to do research, you gotta build stuff, you gotta keep the panic levels across the globe as low as you can so that people keep sending you money, because if they're too panicked and think you're useless, they won't send you the funds you need to keep building things up, even as the aliens begin to ramp up what they are doing across the planet. But sort of the two core things are the base management stuff and the turn-based combat sections. Now, that's true of both the original and this version that I've now played. So I explained all that so that I can explain what it was that was in this demo. So the demo was just one combat section where you have your units. I think there were 6 units, and you got to move them and then set them up and end your turn. And maybe if there were aliens in sight, you could take a shot at them. Maybe if there weren't, you hunker down, and then they take their turn, they move into range, and then they take a shot at you, and maybe you die or whatever. So what he and I used to do, because it was just the one combat section, he and I used to evenly divide up the 6 units, and on that unit's turn, we would decide where they were going to go. And so it felt like the two of us were organizing the squad to take on the aliens that we were fighting. So because of that, I do have this kind of nostalgia for the original. I remember a few years after that, I got the sequel. I forget what it was called now. Or maybe it was even considered just a spin-off, or sort of an expansion even. I can't remember. But it was set like a lot of it was underwater. The gameplay was pretty much identical. I played that, or I tried to. I never got very far in that. I think largely because I don't think the original version of XCOM had difficulty settings. And you'd start a game on it. You could start from the beginning and get a couple of hours in before realizing that you haven't built up your base or your units enough, or you built them up in the wrong way and now you are completely screwed. Which can still happen in the XCOM that I've now played on my PS3, but, at least there's difficulty settings, so you can set it at a lower setting and make that less likely. And yes, I'm a wuss. I had it set on easy. I had fun. Bite me. I still lost units every now and then. So, whatever. But this was a really good update of the entire concept, because the core of it, the core components of the base management and the turn-based combat, tactical combat, were all still completely in play. They were all intact. They were there. Simplified a little bit. I say all intact. Simplified a little bit, streamlined a little bit, and obviously done with more modern technology than stuff from the 90s. But it was still immediately identifiable to me as the same game at its core, which was really cool. It was really cool to play something and recognize it as something that I've played before decades ago, while at the same time seeing the modern at the time technology used to make it more presentable and give it a different level of presentation. This was really cool. And the fun to be had in the sort of the panic that can happen when you go to mop up a downed UFO, and you take your best squad, your best sniper and your good heavy and your really good support team and your best assault folks, and maybe someone with even some psi abilities or what have you. And, you go in there and you take out like the first few at the outer perimeter. I'm like, yeah, I got this. And then you send one unit around a corner just out of the sight of everybody else, and they stumble across the biggest, burliest, meanest looking things you've ever seen. You're like, crap. And it's not just that now suddenly you're probably going to use that one unit. This whole little squad is going to burst around the corner and start taking all of your people out. And you're starting to wonder, oh God, should I have them in a totally different formation? I don't know. Here we go. And if you can pull through that, it's actually quite thrilling. And in a way that's manageable for me. The turn-based combat makes it manageable because I'm not good at twitch reflex gaming. It's one of the things that has turned me off really kind of forever. Competitive first-person or third-person shooters. I can still enjoy them usually if it's a particularly well-crafted single-player experience. But when it gets competitive, I found myself in multiplayer, there's people who they have these twitch aim and dodge abilities that I don't have and will never have. And when something like that happens, I just panic. Like when I would play GoldenEye on the N64, this is a real good video for nostalgia, I didn't even mean it to be. But when I would play GoldenEye on the N64 with my friends, if we played at my house and I got to set the rules for what the settings were, we would always play License to Kill mode, which was one-hit kills. Because whenever we played on normal, meaning you had a health, sort of bar, I would never win. Because everybody else, somehow, I don't know how, they were able to keep their reticle on me even as they were moving and dodging around me and getting hit with bullets. And they could keep zeroed in on me and just riddle me with bullets, and my life goes, and I hit them maybe twice. And I hated that. That was frustrating. So when things get really tough, I appreciate in something like XCOM that I can see, crap, I screwed up. But it doesn't require me to make this snap-second instinctive decision that I'm never going to get good enough at these kinds of games to be able to do reliably. I am not going to sink that kind of time into these things. So to have something turn-based where the situation can still go south in a very short period of time, basically in the course of one turn, you can suddenly realize, oh, shoot! But it doesn't then immediately kill you. It actually, I kind of like the tension of being like, okay, I have the time to think about, I have all the time in the world to think about this. How do I get out of this? And I kind of love that. And it's surprising how attached you can get to some of your units when you've used them often enough. And they don't have a lot of personality. They're pretty much all blank slates, but you see those names, those randomly generated names pop up enough times and you're like, yeah, I can count on you. You're always good. it's funny the personification you sort of grant in your mind to ones and zeros that aren't even really properly characterized in the first place. It's kind of funny. And I think the game does a good balance between those combat sections and the base management, because with the base management it's always about progress. What can I upgrade? What can I research? What can I build? That's going to help everything later. Whereas the combat is obviously much more immediate. How do I not get shot or get my unit shot? So there is that balance between them, but they also feed into each other. They could have felt very isolated from each other, but they don't, because when you finish a mission in the combat sections, you come back with bodies to research, resources to build from, and then you go into the base and you have them autopsy those alien bodies. So you learn more about the weaknesses of this particular breed that you just encountered. You have them use those tools and resources that you gathered to build you new plasma rifles and upgrade your interceptors to shoot down bigger UFOs. The two feed into each other when they could have felt very sectioned off and separate. And they don't. Which, that's harder to balance than I think some folks realize. I don't really have a heck of a lot else to say about this. I really enjoyed playing XCOM. I'm appreciating the fact that I'm finding the time every now and then to actually play video games again. Not like I'm putting off anything that's going to be a serious time commitment. I have Skyrim. I have Fallout New Vegas. I have Dark Souls. I'm putting off all of those because I don't have the time to sink into those games right now. Maybe I'll give something like Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag a shot, or maybe Shadow of Mordor. But even those, I'm I don't know if I'm up for this right now. But something like XCOM, which is very segmented off in its sort of sessions. You can go, I'll just come in and do one combat thing. Of course, you say that, and then you do 3 or 4, and you lose 3 hours. But it is segmented. I don't feel like I'm choosing to end the experience and then feeling oh God, I'm gonna have to remember what the heck was going on when I come back, because I'll be lost. None of that's going on here. It's a good drop in, drop out game, which is kind of what I need right now. XCOM, Enemy Unknown. Have you played any version of XCOM? Whatever your thoughts on it, individual ones, franchise, drop it down in the comments. Let's talk about it. I have a Patreon. That is how I pay my bills. It keeps the lights on around here. Any amount you are able to contribute is greatly appreciated, but you also don't have to. Like, share, subscribe. They all help me out, but no pressure on that either. Take a relaxed attitude around here, so just come on back next time you need a break.